So we're gonna work from half guard, but this thing that we're gonna do can be done from a lot of different positions, almost every position. When your opponent's standing, like from any guard, like X guard, from butterfly guard even, from closed guard, any position you can do this move, okay? But what we're using tonight is a tool. It's called the lasso. Okay, some of you guys know how to use it, some of you guys don't, okay? But the lasso is probably one of the strongest tools that you have in your arsenal as far as defending your guard, and it's also a very powerful sweeping and submitting tool as well, okay? So if you don't know what a lasso is, it's this. I control my opponent's sleeve, okay? And I take my leg, I kick it through, I wrap it around the outside of the arm, I circle my leg all the way through, and then I go under the armpit and I hook my toes into the armpit, basically, behind the armpit, okay? So this is a really strong position. It's not really a position, it's a tool, okay? It's a thing that we can use to stop people from passing our guard, and like I said, sweep or submit from, okay? The reason why it's really strong is because I have control over the distance with this, number one. I can use my hook on the back of her shoulder to pull her body forward, okay? And I can use my frame, my shin that's framing on the front of her shoulder to push away if I need to. So I have good control front and back, pulling her shoulders, okay? But I also have good control opening to tilt her body that way, right? Or if for some reason I needed to, I could go this way. You're normally not gonna be doing this down too much, but there might be an opportunity where you need to or something. You just never know, okay? But the reason why it's so effective is because if Michelle stands up and tries to pass my guard, okay, and I have a lasso in place, okay, and my other leg, let's say it's not doing anything. If Michelle tries to circle this way around my guard, she's connected to me. This hook is gonna stop her from being able to progress that way, okay? If she tries to circle this way, the hook on the outside of her leg, or inside the arm, is gonna serve the same purpose, okay? I have to do a little more moving when she does that. But I have a hook on both sides of her body, so she can't really circle in either direction as long as this lasso exists, okay? She would have to take this thing out, and now she can circle around that way, right? So that's why we don't keep our foot loose here in the middle. I want to circle it all the way through and hook behind her armpit, okay? Sometimes you're gonna hook down by the belt, and sometimes you're gonna hook deep up in the armpit. Just different uses, because there's lots of different things we can do from here, all right? So, about the grip itself. The grip is one of the important parts of the lasso, and it's how we defend our lasso, okay? So what we're gonna do is get 4 fingers in the sleeve, okay? When I have this grip, I'm gonna pinch my elbow and turn my wrist upwards so my palm is facing my face, okay? I don't wanna play lasso with my hand down like this. It's always gonna be up, okay? For a couple reasons. So when I bring this elbow down, this part of my wrist is gonna make a hook in my hip, okay? So even with just this right here, because my elbow's tucked, my palm is up, if Michelle tries to pull herself away, she's pulling into my hip. She's not pulling my arm. If I don't hook that there and she pulls, now it's strength versus strength. But if I attach this to my hip and tuck my elbow in tight, when she tries to pull, she's gonna be trying to pull my leg and my whole body with it, okay? So that's how we reinforce our grip. We turn our hands up like this because it makes it hard for her to rotate her hand to get out of the lasso, okay? I'll explain that stuff later. But once I have this, I call it putting it in my pocket. Okay, so I bring this grip in, so where I'm grabbing is right next to my belt, okay? I tuck the elbow down into my pocket, and now I take my leg out. It goes above the arm, around the arm. My hook goes behind the armpit, okay? But my palm is up, my elbow's always pinching down tight, okay? So if she tries to pull out in any direction, do you think you can try to stand?
And pick you up.
Yeah, you used to do that. So this is a cool test too, to make sure you guys have a good lasso, okay? It's gonna take a strong person, but if I have a good lasso here and it's hooked in right and my grip is good, yeah. When Michelle tries to stand up with me with her, she's gonna pick up my entire body. And all I'm doing is just using a little bit of grip strength. It's not very hard for me to hold that, and it takes all of her energy to pick me up. So she's not gonna wanna do that, okay? So let's start first with a lasso drill that we do in a lot of the adult classes to teach you guys just how to move your hips and set up a lasso from closed guard, okay? So I'm gonna get 2 sleeve grips. Okay, so both hands have the sleeve grips, and both my elbows are tight, and my palms are facing my head. I'm gonna put both of my feet in Michelle's hips with the arms on the inside, okay? Now I'm gonna shrimp away either direction, just pick one side. I shrimp, and I keep my foot firmly in the belly, tuck this hand in the pocket, my lasso goes in on the left side, and then I take my lasso out, put my foot back on the hip, and then I just switch sides. And then I lasso, and then I unlasso, foot back on the hip, switch sides, lasso, unlasso, foot back on the hip. So you always have at least one foot in the hip at all times to maintain space. Okay, so this is how we're gonna start. You can go as fast as you want or as slow as you want. Just don't get sloppy. And make sure you're on their side. It doesn't work if you just do this. Because you see I can't put my foot behind her armpit because I need to create an angle. Otherwise my leg won't go behind the armpit. So all the way on your side and back and forth. Okay, so we're just gonna do that for maybe like a minute or two just to get you guys familiar with that position. And then we'll do some cool sweeps and stuff from there, okay? If you're at home, you can do this with just an empty gi jacket, or you can do this with a belt. All right, this is a great practice. It's kind of like spider guard practice. You just put your feet in, right? And now I just extend one leg, take the other foot out, circle it in, wrap it, take that foot out, switch to the other side. All right, so you can get used to moving your feet and your knees like that. Good simulation for spider guard and for lasso. So we're gonna go straight into a sweep from half guard. It's a massive part of my game. I teach this a lot, and hope you guys enjoy it. So this is the lasso tilt sweep, okay? One of my all-time favorites. So I'm gonna start my half guard with a high knee shield. My foot is on the hip, this bottom leg is wrapped around Michelle's calf, right? I'm on my side, facing this way. I'm not like this. If you're like this, you're wrong. Your shoulders should not be on the mat. Only one shoulder, kind of like you're watching TV, lounging on the couch, okay? My left hand is gonna grab the sleeve. I'm gonna pull this to my pocket. I lasso, okay? Nice tight lasso. All right, so the tilt sweep is really cool. It's a really interesting sweep because we're gonna use our knees like windshield wipers, okay? While I'm playing lasso though, it's really important that my knee is always putting pressure outwards, okay? I don't wanna relax here and let my knees face this way because she's gonna be able to drive her shoulder on top of it and start to smash it, and she just turned it into that leg weave pass that we just did in the warm-up, in the review, okay? Which is no good, all right? So my knee is always pushing out to stop her from doing that. I can't let her get her shoulder and her weight on the outside of my leg. It has to stay on the front side of my leg, okay? But this is really neat. So what I'm gonna do is, I'll do it without the grip first, but this bottom knee, all right? One of the reasons I want this knee to be mobile, I don't want it to be too deep, is because I want to be able to put my toes, my pinky toes on the mat, and I'm going to take this knee up like this, okay? When I bring it up like this, it matches the exact same angle as my other leg. So this one's facing this way, and this one is now facing this way. Okay, I'll show you at a different angle, but they're both facing the same way. They're parallel now. When I started, they weren't parallel. They were a V, like a triangle, okay? But when I bring it up, now they're parallel, all right? So when I bring this bottom one up, right when it hits the point where it's parallel and it stops moving, it should be right about her belly, okay? It's gonna hit this leg on the other side, but it's also gonna hit her belly a little bit, okay? Right when it hits that point, this knee is gonna go the same thing, and then they're both gonna continue to go, okay? So it looks like this. This one comes up, that one goes, and I kind of just roll over my hips, and I continue to go. And because this foot is trapped behind my hip over here, behind my heel, it's not going to go out for her to base, okay? So just doing that without the grip is kind of rough, so I'll show you how we can make it even easier, but that's essentially what we're going to do, okay? So I catch my grip, put it in my pocket, set my lasso in place, strong hook right in the upper back, right in the armpit, okay? So my bottom knee comes up, and then my top knee goes at the same time, okay? And what we're gonna do, that only works when somebody's sitting up really tall like Michelle is right now. She's being a good partner for me, right? But to do this on everybody, I'm gonna get a grip on the inside of this knee, okay? It can be on the outside too, depending on where their leg is. but usually the inside's easy to get, okay? So this knee's gonna come up, right? And right when this one comes up, this knee's gonna go out too, and then I'm gonna lift up on this knee. Because as I do this, you see what happens to your knee, watch, go back. Watch this knee really closely when I tilt both of my legs. See how it moved? If it moves, that means it's light, okay? So right when this starts to move, that means this leg gets light. So I go up, and I just pick up the knee, okay? I like to hold on to the knee because then it makes it hard for her to shrink away. It makes it hard for her to come up and try to stop the sweep from happening. So I control this leg. I can step my leg out. I like to just step on the hips like this, just to make a little space. You don't have to do that. And then I let go of the grip on the sleeve, and I just come up to side control. Okay, so this bottom foot down here is always wrapping around the calf, and my toes are trying to touch the mat all the time. Okay, if I relax here and this foot is just like this, she might circle her foot out, and if she puts her foot on top, she's essentially out of my guard, and she can just circle around and pass, okay? So with the half guard, I've got to keep her leg trapped. If I'm not pinching her upper leg, then I have to trap her lower leg with my toes, okay? But that does something really interesting too, and you'll probably feel it. It's pretty uncomfortable for your partner. As you rotate your bottom knee up, it tends to put pressure on the ankle down there, and it's really uncomfortable. And then, yeah, it's just really not fun at all. Your ankle drives right into their calf, okay? So I get my grip, put it in my pocket, set my lasso. You see I'm hooking up into her armpit, nice and high. Okay, my knee is pointing out all the time. I'm gonna grab the inside of that knee, okay? And then I bring my bottom knee up, and right when it gets there, everything goes at the same time. And I knock her over, okay? Now I keep the grip on the pants. I can just step out, right? If you wanna let go of the sleeve, hug the head, and settle into side control. From here, my bottom toes are touching the mat, trapping her ankle, okay? This foot's usually on the hip, so I grab the sleeve, I pull the sleeve into my pocket, inside of my leg. I take my foot out, I circle over the top, I hook up behind her armpit. My toes are always flexing, I'm making a hook. I don't want to be loose and relaxed here. I want to be strong. The stronger my toes are, the stronger my suit is going to be. My right hand grabs the inside of the knee, or the outside of the knee, just depending on where they are. I'm going to get the outside this time. My bottom knee comes up, and then right when it hits the top, my left knee goes out, my bottom knee goes out. I tilt her over, keep control of the leg, step my leg out. If you want, you can bring this leg and shoot it all the way across to the mount, or you could just go to side control. And I'll show you like kind of the speed of it too, because I want you to drill it slow, but it's kind of a fast sweep. Right? If you want to get the grip on the pants first too, that's great. I do that a lot. I like to mess with people's knees a lot. Get my grip on the sleeve, pull it in, lasso, right? And then all three at the same time. This one starts the movement, and then right when it starts to come up, this hand goes, this knee goes, all together. Okay. Takes people by surprise. And I just step out, drop down nice and low, and go right to side control. All right, so lasso time. Sleeve is the inside, put it in my pocket, lasso up and over, make that strong hook, get a grip on this knee, okay? Watch the order of the knees. Step out, bring your chest. When you step out, make sure you bring your chest really low, because I want to close the distance and get to that side control as fast as I can. And make sure you let go of the sleeve when you do that. So I drop down really low, let go of the sleeve, and get a nice low side control quickly. And that's this. Your bottom foot, the one that's on the ground trapping the leg, this guy right here, these toes have to stay on the mat, okay? I can't open these legs and roll over my back like this, okay? This sweep, you are rolling over your back, but I can't lift this foot up. The motion isn't this, okay? The motion is this. It's almost like, kind of like a reverse shrimp or like a pivot. If you can lift your hips up, you'll get even more power on this sweep. But I keep these toes on the mat, and look, it's like a hinge. My toes make a hinge on the mat. My knee comes up, and I hinge to the other side, okay? If you try to do this sweep with using your top leg to create the momentum, it doesn't work, okay? So if I get here, and I try to open this and move somebody, like I can pull as hard as she wants, she's not gonna go anywhere. Okay, this isn't how the motion starts. This is phase number 2, okay? Number 1 starts with the bottom. It's a really interesting thing that happens with the leverage because I'm no longer trying to pull this. When you look, if you watch my knee, when it comes up, watch her belly and watch all of her body. I'll even take this leg out, watch this. You see what happens to her body? Like I'm hitting her, like right here, okay? But it's moving, it's making her fall over that leg because that leg it's not going anywhere, right? That shin is staying in place because my toes are trapping it. So when I start the motion by moving her off balance just a little bit, now this leg has power to help finish the motion, okay? So it's not just, you don't start here, just try to throw the person with this top leg because that doesn't work, okay? They both work together. This one comes up and then they both go. Up and then they both turn. You do that with the grip, you roll and you can sit up and then pass the guard, okay? So when you're finishing the sweep too, it's best if you don't like just lay on your back like this. You kind of want to sit up a little bit, okay? So if I go up and I come up to my elbow, that allows me to step out and then come up to the side control, okay? So look at Coach Michelle's knees, right? She's making a triangle, okay? The reason why a triangle is the strongest base that exists, okay? The reason why is because it can only be knocked over in 3 directions, okay? It has the least amount of sides that something can knock it over to, okay? The more sides something has, right? The more angles it has, the more vulnerable it is to being knocked over, okay? And what that means is when I try to push Michelle, I can only push her over this line, right? So she can fall that way, or she can fall forward, or she can fall this diagonal, okay? But if I try to pull her straight sideways, I can't because her knee is here for base. And if I try to push her sideways that way, I can't because her knees are there for base. And if I try to push her straight backwards, I can't. So anywhere that there's a point on a triangle, you could try this with anything you have in your house that's a triangle. You can't knock it over easily anyway when you're going over a corner, okay? And the lower the center of gravity is, the lower she makes her body, the even harder it is to knock her over that point, okay? So it's really important to realize when we're doing this sweep, I'm not trying to knock her over sideways, because if I was trying to knock her over like this way, right, her knee is here, and she's not gonna fall that way. So when you're doing this sweep, you're actually knocking somebody away just a little bit at a diagonal. So if I was facing you, I'm not trying to knock her over sideways. I'm going at a diagonal, okay? It's like a 33-degree angle. So if I do this facing the camera with Michelle, this is really hard to show like straight on. You almost have to look overhead to see this, right? But if you look at her leg here, this is the angle I want her to fall over, okay? If I try to go sideways, some of you guys, your bottom foot is coming off the mat, it's because you're trying to go sideways, and it's really hard to go sideways. When I push my knee up into her belly, I'm actually pushing her away, so she's falling almost a little bit backwards to her butt. She's not going over her knee. Does that make sense? This is a really important thing about jiu-jitsu, and that's why we always want to have a wide triangle, because you can't knock somebody over like this, right? You never want to try to sweep somebody like that. You want to sweep them over this angle, over this line. That's where they're vulnerable, okay? So make sure you're keeping that bottom foot on the mat, and that'll help push the person back at a diagonal to fall down the right way. Okay, that's how we maximize leverage in every single sweep in jiu-jitsu, is by using that idea, okay? So I'm gonna give you guys one more grip to play with this, with the same sweep. That's what you say. So this is a way we can make this sweep work, and I do this a lot to trick people without using the lasso at all. I call it the fake lasso, or the invisible lasso. So if she's reaching around my leg like this, sometimes people grab onto your belt, sometimes they grab onto your collar, okay? But they like to hug this leg, because honestly it makes them feel secure, right? If they feel like they can smash my knee down, maybe they can pass around to that side. But I'm gonna get a grip on the inside of her knee, and instead of lassoing the arm, I'm just gonna grab onto her elbow, and I pinch my elbow down over top of her hand, and I grab onto, like right above her elbow, on the fleshy part of the back of her arm there, her tricep, okay? But I glue that to my leg. So now I've basically made the same kind of pressure that I did with my lasso, right? So if I start the movement with my bottom leg, right, and see how she's tilting over that leg in a straight line. So I'm kind of pushing away just a little bit. That's what helps me sit up at the end, okay? And I've still got the exact same sweep. I can just step my leg out, go to knee on belly or go to side control. We had a same sweep, just different grip, right? Because sometimes if they're low like this, sometimes you don't want to take your lasso out or my leg out. If I take my knee shield out like this, now she's in front of my knee shield and she might try to smash, okay? Going for lasso is really good if they're moving around a lot, or if you feel like they're gonna pass, you set your lasso in really quick, right? But let's say she's putting pressure down. I don't wanna put my lasso in now because I might lose the position. So I just trap her arm here. I just pinch down really tight so she can't pull away. So if she tries to pull her arm back now, it's stuck, it's glued to me. And I'm not using very much strength to do that. I get a grip on the knee, and again, my bottom knee comes up into the belly, and then I swivel both my legs out, and I tilt her over that line. And I sit up, right? Now I can pull my leg out, I can pop up to knee on belly, and start to attack right away, or go to side control, or mount, or whatever, okay? Just remember though, the key to this sweep is this. You want them to fall backwards. So you kind of have to sit up with them if you want to stay glued to them, okay? So falling backwards, okay? All right, let's give it a couple minutes and try. 1, 2, 3.